Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining the Childcare Business Coach podcast. And for those of you watching the video, we are using this as a dual purpose. It's going to be on our live show and the podcast as well. So wherever you're watching or listening to us, welcome. I am joined by a pretty cool guest today, the Tony Child, who is going to be our keynote speaker at the Childcare Business Summit. So Tony, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I am super excited to be with you here in a few weeks. So it's going to be an incredible event. I'm excited to be able to join you. My background, I've got a really unique background. I spent 15 years in banking and lending. Most people don't know that, but that's where I come from. So I'm very left brain, very analytical, and I'm also very right-brained. I now teach positive psychology all over the world and the power of the mind and mindset and the power of our subconscious mind. While at the bank, I attended a workshop, and the workshop was based on the power of positivity. And I walked into this workshop. So the bank would send me around to different workshops. I'd bring back information. I would share it at the bank. I would create programs and I would create presentations that I would then go share. Well, I went to a presentation out of Harvard based on the book, The Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker. And the very first thing that the presenter said was, if you change the way you see things, then the things you see will change. I thought that was so stupid. I thought it was so stupid. I turned to my boss and I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Can I leave? And she said, if you want to get fired, you'll leave. And I was like, all right, I'll stay. And I stayed over the next 3 hours, and those 3 hours changed my life.
Wow.
I was like semesters away from, like 2 semesters away from a degree in finance and in credit and a bunch of accounting stuff, and totally changed that into communications, positive psychology degrees, certifications. And this is now my life. Like, this is what I believe, that you can add a 0 to any number you want in your life. So if that's like, I want to 10 times my leads, you can do that. I want to 10 times my income, you can do that. I want to 10 times my revenue as a childcare owner, you can do that. Like, you can add a 0 to your number. And I had no clue, because my 0 was 6 figures. And it's like, how in the heck am I going to go to 7 figures? Because that didn't even compute into my brain as a possibility.
Yes.
And that's where mindset work comes in. I change who I am systematically, meaning what I believe and the limits that I hold, I can add a 0 to any number I want in my life.
Yes. And I think you just summarized exactly why we're bringing you in as our keynote, because I am on a mission to change the early childhood education community. We are stuck in this old, archaic industrial standard that isn't working anymore. And with the up and coming economy that we see, that we know is inevitable, if my industry doesn't level up and change, we're not going to make it. I was in the same city I live in right now. I own childcare centers here. And when I first started business in 2008, by the way, there was 5 of us. There were 5 childcare centers here. I started at one of the worst economic times of my lifetime, my adult life. And I not only built, but I built something big. And I'm out of the 5 childcare centers that were here, only 2 of us survived the last recession. Wow. And the reason I survived is because I didn't allow myself to be stuck in that old mindset. I looked in my industry and I thought, why are we doing things like this? Obviously, it's failing. But what I see in early childhood education is that people are so stuck in that mindset, that one way of thinking. It's almost like Blockbuster, right? Where's Blockbuster? A lot of the younger kids, like my kids,
don't even know what it is.
They don't even know what Blockbuster is, right? But when we were kids, it was exciting to go to Blockbuster. But why is Blockbuster not an everyday name anymore like it used to be? Because they got stuck in an industry standards that became outdated and they didn't evolve. And so my mission right now is to bring new people into the early childhood education community that we don't know. So a lot of my listeners aren't going to know who you are because they're so stuck in this archaic system, and they're still listening to people with this old mindset that isn't serving us. And so mindset is the key. My background, by the way, is in neuropsychology. So that's where I just understand the power of your brain and what you can create when you really harness the power of your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll talk all about that. So here's a fascinating thing that I'd love to chat with you. So what percentage of childcare centers go under within their first 2 years? I think you shared it before we came on air here, but I want to just get that number and then I want to talk about it.
80% of childcare centers go out of business within their first 2 years in business. And of somebody like me, I originally had built my career on going in and buying those centers. Like
Yeah.
when there was an owner about to hit that bankruptcy point, I would swoop in. My current childcare center that I'm in now, I bought it so cheap. And that's what I basically did. I bought them really, really cheap. And then I would fix them and turn them. Now, instead, I didn't like that. So now I help owners figure out how.
So here's my question though. Here's my point that I want to share with you. Was it the actual, so if within 2 years, these child care centers go under, but you go in and buy them and actually make them profitable.
Right.
So is it the economy that made it go
No.
out? No. Is it the center that made it go out? Is it the location that made it go out?
Nope.
No. It is the mindset of the owner.
Yes. Yep.
That is it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It is the mindset of the owner.
Yes. And we hear the same things as a business coach in this industry. I hear the same things. Well, parents can't afford me. I can't afford to pay employees good enough wages. All of these excuses and this victim mentality that they're stuck in. And I'm like, but look at me. Then the city I live in is actually rural Nevada, small, kind of a very low income town. Yet I charge, like my nearest competitor to me, I charge a lot more. I mean, some of my competitors, I charge $50 a week more, and I have a 1,300 child wait list.
Wow.
And yes, 1,300 children. I have people that drive from neighboring cities to bring their children to my childcare center, but it is mindset. It's who I knew I needed to become. And then by that, and first I'll mention it's me. It starts with me as the leader. And then it trickles down to my staff, my program, and everything.
So I have a philosophy that I think that is the reason why, because it's not just this industry. It's like all small businesses.
Yes.
You know, that's not just an industry of child care centers. That's like industry wide. You know, I think the statistic actually is 80% of small businesses go under within their first 2 years of going into business.
Yep.
And I believe that it's because of a person's definition of success and failure.
Ooh, I like that.
I believe that is the single greatest reason why they go under within 2 years. So here, like if I were to ask 100 people on the street, Evelyn, if we were to go on the street, you and I, we were to interview 100 people and we were to ask them like, hey, what's your definition of success? Yes. What do you think would be the average answer? Like if we were to take all the answers of what people would give us, what would be the overwhelming answer people would give us of their definition of success? What do you think?
It would be income. It would be where a person's socioeconomic status lies, basically.
Okay. So that may be like, hey, if I'm getting a specific income, then I'm successful, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I would even make it simpler. I have this desired outcome and I achieved it.
Yes. Yeah.
That would be like the simplest definition of success that most people carry.
Right.
I had an idea of what I wanted and I got it. So would you agree, by the way, that that's probably the definition of a desired outcome?
Yeah, absolutely. It is that desired outcome. And then I think the problem occurs when people get to that point.
Okay.
And then they realize,
I'm going to reframe it. I'm going to reframe the whole thing because what I'm saying is this is limits. This is why people go bankrupt. Okay. So I got my desired outcome. That's the definition of success for most people. So by default, what's the definition of failure?
Not getting there or losing it all.
I didn't get my desired outcome. Yes. Therefore, I what?
Right. I failed. Yeah.
And that will cripple you.
Yes.
As an organization, as a person, if your definition of success is, I had this picture in my mind of how success was going to look like, and I got it. And if I don't get the picture of what success looks like, then I failed.
Yes.
And most people then take it on as an identity of I'm a failure. And as soon as that happens, you're done. You're
You're
toast.
done. Yes. You're absolutely right. And I also think, like, to add to that, with the ones who do get there, it's not what they thought it was going to be. I help a
Yeah.
lot of new owners. I help them achieve ownership. And I went through this myself, where you think you're going to get to this goal and then all of your answers are going to be found and life is going to be beautiful and wonderful. And, you got that golden ticket to life. But then you get there and you're just like, okay, this isn't what I thought it was going to
Yeah.
be. This doesn't make my life easy all of a sudden, and it didn't pave my way like I thought it would. And you realize that, first of all, it's not what you think. Secondly, it takes work to maintain. And
Yeah.
I think that's the other way. Either if they get stuck in that failure trap and think, well, I tried, I can't do it, or they get it and it's not all it was cracked up to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So the best definition of success I've ever heard comes from an old dude named Earl Nightingale. He was in the 50s. He was like a first podcaster. That's what I could say. He's like one of the first podcasters. He won an Emmy for it. He wrote a podcast called The Strangest Secret.
Oh,
And if you go to YouTube and you just YouTube The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, it's like 1952. It won a bunch of awards. It's just this nice deep voice as he gives this monologue for 30 minutes about success.
okay.
And he was kind of the godfather of personal development. Besides Napoleon Hill,
Yes.
he then taught Lloyd Conant, and Lloyd Conant
Wow.
partnered with Earl Nightingale, and those two were really the catapulting of all the personal development you see today. Those two were like the people that started it.
Oh,
And
wow.
Earl Nightingale said this about success: it's the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Now,
Oh,
worthy ideal, the way I would define that, as a dream, a
yes.
vision, something that is way beyond me, and it's the progression towards a dream. If you're progressing towards a dream, you're succeeding, period. And so could failing be progression?
Yes,
If
absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, because we learn every time something doesn't work. It's like, okay, that didn't work. Let me try something else. As long as I get back up,
Yes.
I'm progressing,
Right.
and therefore I'm succeeding. And
Right.
so, are you familiar with Sarah Blakely?
Yes.
Okay. Most of my women that I know in my life are familiar with Sarah Blakely, right? Most men have no clue who she is. Sarah Blakely creates underwear for women, like that does a lot of cool stuff that
Yes.
makes women feel good, right?
Right.
That's probably the best way I could describe
Right. Yes.
it. Okay. She started her business as a fax salesperson that she would sell door to door for business.
Wow.
That's how she started.
Wow. I had no idea.
And she was looking in the mirror one day. She was wearing white tights and did not like what she saw. Okay.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
Like all
I
my
do.
women out there know what they're
Yes.
talking about. Look into the mirror. It's like, I
Especially the
don't
white.
like this.
Yeah.
So she took pantyhose and she figured out how to suck it all in and move
Mhm.
things around. And she's like, this is really awesome. And so she created the first Spanx. Like that's how it came about.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
now we know what's happened. She started with $5,000 in her bank account, and now she's over $1 billion.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I credit her for my ability to wear white jeans. So there.
Yes, right? Most women do.
Right.
And here's what was so fascinating. So fast forward now 30 years, she's a billionaire, and she's on CNN. And the interviewer is asking her, how did you do this? Like, how did you create all of this? And she said this. She said, when I was a little girl, my dad would bring us around the dinner table, me and my siblings, and we every week would have to bring our failure of the week, meaning the things that we did that we totally bombed. You know, we tried out for the play and we totally screeched the top note and it was awful. We tried out for the baseball team and whiffed 10 times. Like, we'd have to bring our failure of the week and then we would celebrate it.
Wow.
We would give high fives to each other about our failures of the week. And then she said this. She said, I didn't realize it at the time, but my dad was reframing my definition of failure from outcome to simply not trying.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's amazing. That is so profound. Yeah.
So look, like, if you're out there and you're like, okay, what's success and failure? Success is simple. I'm progressing towards a dream, And failure is only when I quit.
When you quit.
And I didn't
Exactly.
try. I didn't
Yes.
try a new idea. I didn't try a new, like, look, if you're a childcare center owner or you're an owner of any company,
Yes.
you're going to pivot probably 1,000 times before you hit
Oh,
pay
yeah.
dirt. Like, how many
Yeah.
times have you pivoted in your career?
Oh my gosh,
Evelyn?
not even. Well, and I was once a failing owner. I didn't know what I was doing, to the point that my mom and my husband both came to me and said, "Okay, Evelyn, it's time to throw in the towel. You're done. You've tried this." And I realized, like, no, I don't fail until the day I give up. And that was exactly my thinking, is if I give up, that is when I've truly failed. And from the world's perspective, my business was failing. I was headed for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
But then I pivot, and the thing people need to also understand is, yes, I pivoted at that point, but then I had to pivot again, and then COVID hit and I had to pivot again. And when people look at people like you and I, and they say like, "Oh, well, it's so easy for them." No, it's not. We're
It's
just,
not.
it's our mindset. We're just prepared to know that some of our ideas are going to fail, and that's okay. And we're also prepared to pivot at any given time. It's like that. That's just it. We're adaptable.
And one of my favorite inventors was Thomas Edison. And an interviewer came up to him and said, "Wow, you failed like 10,000 times before you hit it."
Yep.
He said this, and this is again goes to our definition of failure and success. He said, No. I didn't fail 10,000 times. I found 9,999 ways how to not build a light bulb.
Oh,
But
that's
every
awesome.
time I tried, I figured out what not to do for the next time, or I figured out what to tweak for the next time.
Yes.
And it took him 10,000 tries to succeed at his dream. His dream was, I want to provide a light bulb. Like, that was his dream.
Right.
And he progressed every time he seemingly failed.
Yeah.
Every time he didn't get light, he succeeded, because he
Right.
tried again, and he tried again, and he tried again.
And he didn't give up. That was the key. The other thing, when I was 19, my biggest influential thing, I think, was I read Stephen King's his autobiography. And in it, he talks about how when he was submitting his first book that he was trying to get published was Carrie. Carrie was actually rejected 3,000 times. 3,000 times before he got the first yes. Yeah.
Wow.
His mother told him that he just needed to focus on being a teacher. He was I think it was high school or middle school. I can't remember which of the two, but he was a teacher. That he just said, focus on your teacher career. You can become a principal. That's amazing, but give up this dream of being a writer. His mom didn't have that in him. And he talks about in the book how he wishes that she would have lived to see, but even after she died, he still kept on going and kept on going. And eventually he got that first publication. And he talks about how once that happened, it was just like this snowball effect. He got the movie deal. And I mean, we all know Stephen King, and we don't think of a person like Stephen King as someone who had to submit 3,000 times before he got that first yes. But imagine if he had given up at 1,000. And that's when I was reading that book at 19, I thought to myself, after 100, had he given up, everybody would have said, "Wow, you're amazing. You tried 100 times and you didn't give up. But you know what? Good job for trying." And nobody would have faulted him for giving up at that point.
Yeah.
When he hit 1,000, 2,000, but he didn't let the outside world get into his head. He had that belief in himself, and he wasn't accepting failure. And now he is the Stephen King we know today.
Same thing happened to J.K. Rowling, by the way.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Same thing. Like, hundreds and hundreds of people declined her manuscript of Harry Potter, thinking no one will ever buy this. No one will ever read this. Harry Potter is probably my favorite nonfiction, or my favorite fictional book. Like, I read Harry Potter as an adult. I would be the first person in line to go get my Harry Potter book. And so the point, it's just amazing what supposed experts will tell us.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at Sylvester Stallone. Do you know Sylvester Stallone's story?
Yes.
He was dirt poor. He had to sell his dog that poor.
Yeah.
He got divorced that poor because he couldn't support even his wife that poor. Yeah. And he wrote the manuscript to Rocky. And every single person declined. And finally, one producer said, "You know what? I like the script. I'll pay you $100,000 for it." Now, $100,000 to someone who's dirt poor is insanely
Yeah.
like I want
Especially
to
back
hit.
then. Yeah.
But then
Especially
here was
then.
the caveat. The caveat was you're not the main character. And Sylvester Stallone's dream was not only having Rocky be produced, but having him as Rocky.
Oh, right.
And he wouldn't accept it. He declined it.
Wow.
Yeah, he said, no, I can't do it. And finally they came back and they said, fine, then you're going to take the hit on this because no one's ever going to watch this. This is not going to,
Oh,
we'll
wow.
produce it. We're going to do it on a shoestring budget. You're not going to get paid until the back end of royalties. And I don't think at that point royalties was a big deal. And so
Right.
he's like, you'll get paid royalties. You're not going to get paid on the front end. And look at what Rocky's done.
Oh my gosh, the royalties alone. I mean, so many actors nowadays don't even get the royalties. So it's amazing what you do when you just don't give up. And one of the things I teach my people a lot of times is that really consistency over time is the key.
Yeah.
As long as you're consistent, you're going to find the success. You just can't give up, and then try different ways of doing things. If it's not working, then try something different, and don't be afraid. The fear, I think, factor and letting other people get into your head is just a huge thing where you have to do what is right for your business and not be afraid of who's going to walk away from you, who doesn't believe in you. Because even some of the most well-meaning people who love us don't always see it like we do. And we just have to stay true to us and to our dreams.
Yeah. Yeah. And I look at it like you're the average of the 5 people you associate with. That was Jim Rohn. Sean Akers actually proven it in a book called Big Potential. He actually proved the quote to be scientifically true.
Wow.
So you are the average of the 5 people that you associate most with. And if you think about where these 5 people are, they're seated right next to you.
Yes.
And so when you're going after a new chair, you're going after something that's like way out there, and you ask the people that are right next to you what they think, just look at where they are.
Right.
They're going to tell you based on their experience, and it will be based on your experience. And if it's based on your experience, you're probably not going to get there. If you're truly dreaming, you won't know how to do it.
Right.
That's what makes a dream a dream. It's like, I have no clue how I'm going to do this, but I really want this. And I know that if you're a business owner, whether it's a childcare center owner or any other entrepreneur, you had a dream. You wouldn't have opened up this business without a dream.
Right.
A dream of it flourishing, a dream of it helping thousands of kids, a dream of it going beyond 2 years. Like you have a dream. Just keep that dream there and progress and know that every time you fall on your face, it's not failing. It's just a way that didn't work. Right. It's not a failure.
Absolutely. I love that so much. And you bring me to the point on why I'm even doing the Childcare Business Summit, that I really want to expose this industry to a higher level of thinking that we're not seeing. And that's why the Childcare Business Summit is the only event that I honestly, with all my heart, believe that my industry needs to be at this year, because these are the people you need to be around. If you are the 5 people that you spend the most time with, then maybe you should bring people into that circle of yours. And being at the summit, you're going to be with other owners who understand that they need to level up. You're going to hear from people who have leveled up their lives, and you can see what have they done. You and I had shared the same business coach for a while, and I actually put her picture on my vision board, which is right behind me there, because I just needed that other type of higher level thinking in my atmosphere all the time in what I needed to accomplish. So there was a period where I engulfed myself in her podcast, her books, her teachings, because exactly what you're saying, you just level up. And then when I got everything I needed, then I find the next one. And then I find the next, just really engulfing yourself around those type of people, your thinking will level up. And when you do, everything around you levels up, to the point your personal life, your business life. I mean, through this whole process, I've actually I've lost 150 pounds in my personal life. I'm a successful business owner. It's just your whole life changes. So for those of you listening, this is another reason why you have to be at the Childcare Business Summit. It is not an option. I know a lot of you think you don't have the money, but I can tell you right now, you can't afford not to come. You are losing more money by not coming because you're not getting out of that old way of thinking.
Yeah. And it's just to jump up
Yes.
a level of frequency. Like I look at it as like, and I'll share this at the conference. One of the most brilliant minds of our time was Nikola Tesla. And it's
Yes.
not the Tesla that we drive around. Like I think it was inspired by that Elon Musk was inspired by Nikola Tesla, but Nikola Tesla was one of the greatest scientists of our time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said this. He said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yes.
If you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So I just look at it as frequency. If I want to tap into something 10 times more than what I am, I actually have to tap into that frequency. I can't be on my same frequency and expect that I'm going to make 10 times more. It just won't happen. When I was in banking and I made $100,000 a year in banking and I would go to a new bank or a new position, I was expecting 105,000 or 110,000. At no point in time was I expecting $1 million.
Right.
That jump was too big for me. My frequency wasn't on that. And so if I were to ask you, like, Evelyn, is there country music playing in your room right now? Yes or no?
No.
The answer is actually yes.
Oh.
You just can't hear it because you're not tapped into the frequency of it with a radio. But if you turned your radio on right now and you turned your radio dial to whatever the country music station is in Nevada, and you turned your radio dial to that, guess what? You'd be hearing country music in your room. Now, because you can't hear it doesn't mean it ain't real.
Right. Yeah.
Well, when you tap into it, you can now hear it.
Right.
And the thing about summits, the thing about events like this is you get to tap into frequencies that are higher than where you are. And the moment you tap into it, you'll get ideas that you won't get any other place.
Yes.
You won't get them sitting at your desk. You won't get them listening to even podcasts because it's the energy of the room.
Right.
And that frequency of the room. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If you've ever been to an event where like, that was fire, that was on fire. The reason why is because the frequency was really high.
Yep.
And so that's what I know this event will be. It'll be a very high frequency and your ideas will be through the roof.
Right. Exactly. And that's why you really need to lean into it. And that's also why when we're at these events, we're just like these superheroes because we're in the room with all that frequencies coming through us and in us. And that's why, like, when you get home Monday morning, sometimes we kind of lose that. But that's why it's so important to keep up with it as well. Yeah. Well, Tony, this has been absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to be there in person because you're right. I feel the same way where we need to be in person. That's why I'm not streaming this. I thought about making this a hybrid, but we need that higher level of thinking in this industry. We need to step up. I have such a passion for early childhood education and young children that I am on a mission to change this industry, which is why I've gone so far as to trademark the phrase ECE revolution. So I cannot wait. Do you have any final thoughts for me?
No, I'm just excited. I'm excited for everyone to show up. I'm going to bring fire. If you enjoyed this podcast, you enjoyed listening, like just imagine another hour of this,
yes.
And many days. I'll be there the whole time. I'm already booked my flights and I'm going to be there with you, even during all of the other speakers, all the other people. I want to take it all in myself. I'm a student as well. Like I know when I get into high frequency rooms, my brain's going to be going with ideas. And so I'm excited to be there. And I hope you are too.
I'm so excited. One of the points you bring up that's really good is I've been to these conferences where you don't actually get to meet the speakers. So we've actually constructed the Childcare Business Summit where you guys are going to have time to actually talk to us in person, to sit down, pick our brains, be with us, sharing those frequencies that we put out. So make sure that you are there. You cannot miss the Childcare Business Summit. Well, thank you so much, Tony. This has been wonderful.